Welcome to our webinar 5, Culturally Responsive Teaching. Culturally responsive teaching is a huge topic, and today we are going to learn some of its key points as follows. What is culturally responsive teaching? What are the characteristics of culturally responsive teaching and how to apply in your class? How can a teacher become culturally responsive? To start, what is culturally responsive teaching? Culturally responsive teaching is about building the learning capacity of the individual student of different ethnic, cultural, or linguistic backgrounds by creating a learning environment conducive to all students, regardless of color, belief, and socio-economic status. To build the learning capacity of the students, teachers must connect teaching content to the cultural backgrounds of their students. According to research, teaching that ignores student norms of behavior and communication provokes student resistance. On the other hand, teaching that is responsive prompts student involvement and engagement. How do you know that your teaching is culturally responsive? The simplest way to judge whether your teaching is culturally responsive is whether your diverse students of color, language, immigrant students are learning. How do you know that your students are learning? Your students are learning when they manifest change from not knowing to knowing. Learning means change. If they are not succeeding academically within your classroom norms, your approach might need to be more culturally responsive. Change your approach to culturally responsive. To understand better the culturally responsive teaching, we are going to discuss its characteristics. Let's proceed to talking point number 2. What are the characteristics of culturally responsive teaching and how to apply in your class? The number of authors, including Gay and Lippmann, have identified 6 characteristics of culturally responsive teaching. These characteristics are: 1. Validating, 2. Comprehensive, 3. Multidimensional, 4. Empowering, 5. Transformative, and 6. Emancipatory. 1. Validating. Culturally responsive teaching is validating and affirming because it acknowledges the strengths of the students' diverse heritages. Validating means using the cultural knowledge of different ethnic groups that affect students' dispositions, attitude and behavior, prior experiences, and performance styles to make learning more appropriate and effective for them. How to apply in your class? Literature in the classroom would reflect multiple ethnic perspectives and literary genres. Math instruction would incorporate everyday life concepts such as economics, employment, consumer habits of various ethnic groups. 2. Comprehensive. Culturally responsive teaching is comprehensive because it uses cultural resources to teach knowledge, skills, values, and attitudes. Culturally responsive teachers develop intellectual, social, emotional, and political learning by using cultural reference to impart knowledge, skills, and attitudes. Culturally responsive teaching is about teaching the whole child. How to apply in your class? Instill in your students that they are part of a more collective effort designed to encourage academic and cultural excellence. Clearly express expectations and skills to be taught. Ask students to behave like members of an extended family, assisting, supporting, and encouraging each other. Let them feel accountable as part of a larger group, and it is everyone's task to make certain that each individual member of the group is successful. Exhibit interpersonal relations. The entire class is expected to rise together, and it is in the best interest of everyone to ensure that each individual member of the group is successful. No one is left behind. 3. Multidimensional. Culturally responsive teaching is multidimensional because it encompasses many areas and applies multicultural theory to the classroom environment, teaching methods, and evaluation. Multidimensional cultural responsive teaching involves curriculum content, learning contexts, classroom climate, student-teacher relationships, instructional techniques, and performance assessments. How to apply in your class? Teachers from various disciplines such as language arts, science, social studies, music may collaborate in teaching a single cultural concept such as bullying, war, equity, teenage pregnancy, and more. Let students participate actively in their own performance evaluation. 4. Empowering. Culturally responsive teaching empowers students, giving them opportunities to excel in the classroom and beyond. Empowerment translates into academic competence, personal confidence, courage, and the will to act. Culturally responsive teaching enables students to be better human beings and more successful learners. Empowerment can be described as academic competence, self-efficacy, and initiative. How to apply in your class? Demonstrate ambitious and appropriate expectations and exhibit support for students in their efforts toward academic achievement. Choose students that you expect them to succeed and commit themselves to making success happen. Empower students to succeed in learning tasks and willingness to pursue success relentlessly until mastery is obtained. 5. Transformative. Culturally responsive teaching is transformative because educators and their students must often defy educational traditions and the status quo. Transformative means respecting the cultures and experiences of various groups and then uses them as resources for teaching and learning. Transformative appreciates the existing strengths and accomplishments of all students and develops them further in instruction. Transformative develops social consciousness, intellectual critique, and political efficacy in students so that they can combat prejudices, racism, and other forms of oppression and exploitation. How to apply in your class? Use storytelling that is unique among students in informal social interactions to teach speaking skills and writing skills, for example. Provide the ethnic groups who prefer to study in small learning communities with more opportunities for cooperative learning. And 6, emancipatory. Culturally responsive teaching is emancipatory and liberating because it guides students in understanding that no single version of truth is total and permanent. Culturally responsive teachers liberate students. How to apply in your class? Make your lessons authentic using cultural resources. Create, plan, and refine teaching activities, lessons, and assessment practices in a culturally responsive way. Avail the knowledge about different cultural, religious, ethnic groups to all students. Make the resources available in the classroom through posters, artifacts, paintings, and the like. We have just finished the presentation of the characteristics of culturally responsive teaching and how to use in your class. To reiterate, the 6 characteristics of culturally responsive teaching are validating, comprehensive, multidimensional, empowering, transformative, and emancipatory. The core of culturally responsive teaching described in its 6 characteristics is caring. Caring is the pillar of culturally responsive teaching. Caring is manifested in the form of teachers' attitudes, expectations, and behaviors about students' human value, intellectual ability, and performance responsibilities. The caring teacher builds a caring community of learners. Our renewed understanding of culturally responsive teaching prompts us to ask ourselves, how can I become a culturally responsive teacher? This moves us to the last talking point of our webinar today. How can a teacher become culturally responsive? When you Google it, you can find lots of ideas, 1,000 insights, and many things to learn about how to become culturally responsive teacher. However, in this presentation, I decided to share the 4 steps to becoming culturally responsive teacher. But let me start by having a common understanding of the term responsive. What is responsive? I consulted dictionaries and I found the meaning of responsive, both denotative and connotative, as follows. Denotatively, responsive means to react quickly and positively, to respond readily with interest and enthusiasm. Connotatively, responsive means openness, receptiveness, eagerness. So, to be a culturally responsive teacher means to quickly and positively respond with interest and enthusiasm to the cultures of the students. With that understanding in mind, I will now present the 4 steps to becoming culturally responsive teacher. Step 1, know your students. Do your research in printed paper or online. Talk to parents, chat with your students, and your teaching colleagues. You need research data of your students about their cultural backgrounds and academic performance. Be proactive when it comes to learning about the different cultural backgrounds of the students in your classroom. Unless you're open, receptive, and eager to know the backgrounds of your students, you would not be able to react quickly and positively and to respond readily to your students with interest and enthusiasm. According to education professor and author Geneva Bay, when academic knowledge and skills are situated within the experiences and frames of reference of students, they are more personally meaningful, have higher interest appeal, and are learned more easily and thoroughly. Knowing your students prompts you to avoid class activities that are culturally insensitive. For instance, in an English class, teaching students the use of descriptive language, instead of creating family trees, which might be complicated because of some missing information that might be culturally sensitive for family who values the family generation. Find another activity. Perhaps, instead of family trees, you can ask your students to ask their parents or relatives about the stories behind how they were named. It gives your students an opportunity to research their own unique identities. Then students write about their names using new descriptive techniques they have just learned. Students find this lesson appealing, and it improves their writing by connecting it to their own personal experiences. Teaching becomes comprehensive. Step 2. Choose engaging texts. Your classroom needs to better represent your students, to inspire them to connect to the text. Depending on your students' backgrounds, find texts that are engaging for them. For instance, works written by female authors or books that have female or minority protagonists might work well in your class. Once students become engaged in the texts, learning becomes transformative. Students who hate poetry, for example, will certainly love it and read it on their own. Not only will students' negative perceptions about poetry change, but they also read another text on their own without you prompting. This growth was in part due to their improved reading skills because they felt connected to the books. Step 3. Restructure your classroom environment. According to researchers Catherine Edmonds and Catherine Bozerman, motivation has frequently made the difference between learning that was temporary and superficial and learning that was permanent and internalized. If you want your students to continue to learn, they need to get connected to your lessons. They need to want to learn. If your classroom atmosphere is rigid, students work quietly, restless, and disengaged. Make lessons that include partner work. Reduce the number of homework assignments and create project-based learning units. This means that the only homework you assign is connected to real-world applicable products. These types of experiences help students find purpose in their learning, and they come to class wanting to learn. You have created a classroom environment that empowers students to want to learn. Reducing the homework load also relieves some of the students from the stress of finding time to do homework because many of them work jobs after school or take care of younger siblings. You are actually a responsive teacher. Learning is liberating. And step 4, be transparent. For many cultures, being transparent is a true sign of respect. Be transparent as possible with students and parents. If you are unsure of something, tell them. Create calendars of daily agendas and standards. Provide copies for students and parents. Email parents calendars and classroom updates. For parents without email addresses, make phone calls when students seem to need some extra encouragement from home. Contacting parents when students did well is also just as important as contacting parents for concerns. This communication alleviates confusion, helping parents understand how to best help their children through the learning process. By doing things like this, you earn students' respect, which helps nurture a positive classroom culture. To truly embrace culturally responsive teaching, the only way to reach students is to move away from an insensitive archaic system and foster a culture of diverse inclusion. By doing so, your students' knowledge grows, and in turn, you advance your own cultural growth. To restate, the 4 steps to becoming culturally responsive teachers are: Step 1, know your students. Step 2, choose engaging texts. Step 3, restructure your classroom environment. And step 4, be transparent. I have just presented to you the 3 key points about culturally responsive teaching. I would like to close my presentation with Professor Geneva Gay, an advocate of culturally responsive teaching, 6 dimensions of culturally responsive teachers. They are as follows. 1. Culturally responsive teachers are socially and academically empowering by setting high expectations for students with a commitment to every student's success. 2. Culturally responsive teachers are multidimensional because they engage cultural knowledge, experiences, contributions, and perspectives. 3. Culturally responsive teachers validate every student's culture, bridging gaps between school and home through diversified instructional strategies and multicultural curricula. 4. Culturally responsive teachers are socially, emotionally, and politically comprehensive as they seek to educate the whole child. 5. Culturally responsive teachers are transformative of schools and societies by using students' existing strengths to drive instruction, assessment, and curriculum design. And 6. Culturally responsive teachers are emancipatory and liberating from oppressive educational practices and ideologies as they lift the veil of presumed absolute authority from conceptions of scholarly truth typically taught in schools. That ends my presentation of Webinar 5, Culturally Responsive Teaching. I hope you learned something from our webinar today to be applied in your own context. See you in our next webinar, Webinar 6, Differentiated Instruction. Thank you.